Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kevin Plays Disc Golf. Today we have a playthrough and course review from Baer Memorial Disc Golf Course in Raymond, New Hampshire. My name is Kevin, and I play disc golf. Filming on course for this video was done on September 28th, 2025. The course originally opened in 2022. To get to the course, take exit 5 on New Hampshire Route 101 in Raymond and head towards Route 27 and Pawtuckaway State Park. After about a half mile, take a left onto Route 27 and 107 West. After just under 2 miles, take a left onto Langford Road. From there, take your first right onto Sundine Parkway. Follow this road for about a half mile where the road will end at a dirt parking lot. This is the parking lot for the course. The course is open from sunrise until sunset. Though there are some walking trails on the property, most of them are separate from the disc golf course. Keep an eye out before throwing as always, but most of the non-disc golf areas of the course are separate from the course. Trash is carry in, carry out. Dogs are allowed as long as they are on leash and cleaned up after. There are no restrooms on site. It had been quite dry prior to when I played the course, and it is likely that the course will be more difficult to traverse if it is wet, especially on the steep hills and on holes 10 and 12. Though there were 2 course configurations listed on the tee signs when I played, there were no tee boxes for the shorter white tees. As a result, I stopped pointing out where these were after hole 5. I played the main blue configuration. When I played, on some holes there were significant discrepancies between the tee signs, U-disc, and the actual hole. Which one was most accurate was not consistent. This caused me some minor, though justified disappointment on hole 8 in particular. I'll have my overall review of the course at the end of the video. Be sure to post your comments as to your thoughts of what looks fun and where you think the problem areas are. Now let's go to the parking lot and get to the practice basket and the tee for hole 1.
Here we are in the parking lot of Baer Memorial Disc Golf Course, and right next to the parking lot we have a practice basket, and this is one of the more unique practice basket locations I have seen. We have a basket and then we have a large rock, so we have a whole bunch of different options as far as elevations, how far we want to go, how far we want to practice from, but this is, again, one of the more unique opportunities I've seen and good place to practice putting. Right next to the practice basket, we have the starting kiosk, which is a nice little bench and area. It's got a little fire pit here and information and a map of the disc golf course. And if we continue just past that, take a left, we have a sign for hole 1. Follow the sign to our left, and we have the tee box for hole 1 right here. U-disc list hole 1 is a 240-foot par 3 downhill. Sort of the neat thing here is the basket is in a gully, so we have to go over the first hump, and then there is a large rock behind it. We can see the top of the basket from the tee. It is just to the left of the crest of the hill that we need to go over. Again, it does play quite a bit downhill, more downhill than the camera would imply, but we do need to get it over that hill to get a really good shot to get parked for where we're going. So let's see how this works out. That was going good, but it took a kick off a tree and went left. I may still have a birdie putt from there because it did get quite a ways down. To the left of the fairway, there is a fairly steep embankment. So although my disc kicked left, it did not go very far left because it hit the side of the hill. So I do have kind of an open shot here for this would be a very long birdie bid. This is probably 70 feet or so, but I can see the basket, and the basket's about 30 feet past the crest of the hill. And again, if we go long, then we'll hit the backstop with the rock. That should have trickled down, should be drop in for par. Not a drop in for par, but a reasonable par putt. Something else to note is this is a bit of a death putt, as the ground does drop down probably 5 vertical feet past the basket. So if you miss this, you're gonna have 25 feet plus coming back up the hill. That is a solid putt to start the day. The baskets appear to be all Mach 5 baskets, painted in this bright orange, which is really nice because that allows us to see what is going on. So to get to the tee for hole 2, if we go past the basket, we have a sign on the tree that says tee pad for 2. Continue along this small path. And this path is pretty well defined. Does not seem like there's any way to accidentally go off it. And is a little steep here. I imagine if it's particularly wet, this may be a little bit slippery. We do have a bridge to go across. It's like a PVC plastic bridge. Interesting. End of the bridge, we take a right. We have another nice rock wall here. This looks like it may be a decent place to do some rock climbing if you're into that sort of thing. And we take the left here. Again, we're still following the main trail. It is a bit of a walk, but there are quite a few signs, and it's kind of obvious where we are going. Right here, we have the tee pad for hole 2. U-disc lists hole 2 is a 195-foot par 3, significantly uphill. We cannot see the basket off the tee, but our line is, if we go off the right edge of the top of the second crest before it starts to drop down further to the right, so the sort of the flat section up there, that is the direction of the basket. It is even above and past that. So the top of that second crest is maybe 80 to 100 feet off the tee. So the basket is about the same distance past that. And again, there's a third ledge that we cannot see from the tee that it is above. So the idea here is we want to get it way high and keep it left. Once we get past this first crest, the ground does drop off significantly going to the right. So as me playing right hand forehand, this is definitely not the hole for me. But if you have a backhand hyzer right hand, that is going to be the way to play this, because there's a lot of elevation here as well. Well, we'll see where that ends up, but I think it's at least, hopefully didn't roll back down the hill, but if it did not, that'll be fine. At the crest of the first hill, if we look up and to the left past the third rock outcropping off the tee, we can finally see the basket. So this is way uphill. So though there are white tees listed, I did not see any tee box for the first hole, and here on the second hole I don't see one either. I believe the white tees are intended to play off the top of this second hill off the crest of the tee. I did roll back down some, so I am down and to the right of here, but I do have a shot at the basket. I am just ahead and to the right of the hill that the white tees are on. From here, we can barely see the top of the basket peeking over the top of the second set of rocks. So this will be my second shot. I at least have a look from here. So again, as long as I can get this close, this should be at least a par from here. I missed right, but I think the distance was good, so should be par. And that'll be a drop in for 3, POV for 3. There we go. And to get from the basket of 2 to the tee for 3, you can see that there is a sign just past the basket. If we go to our left, we can see the tee for hole 3 right ahead of us. You disc hole 3 is a 165-foot par 3. Dogleg right, there's a large sign that says Mando on it, so we have to go to the left of that Mando tree. There is no obvious white tee box again, but it is intended to be, I believe, just over the crest of the hill on the left side of the fairway. We can see the basket from the tee. If we look at this stump that is directly in front of us, in front of the rock wall, if we look up directly above that and a little bit to the right, we can see the basket off in the distance. So this is a pretty significant dogleg right, which does play into my backhand play. So it is downhill a little bit too, and we do not want to go left or long, because if we remember the walk from hole 1 to hole 2, we are now on top of that rock, so we don't want to go too far that way. So tree kick left here, especially after we make it past the Mando and have the disc start going to the right, is not good. I think it hit a branch and dropped straight down, but that was tracking beautifully to the basket before it hit the tree. Here we are on the left edge of the fairway, just after the crest, and I believe the short tee is expected to play from somewhere around here. Again, not well marked at this point. Here we have a little bit better look to the left and long, so I guess it is a bit of a distance to go to the left before you have issues. The mound here, we really don't want to go over that either. You do have a little bit of margin on the other side of that, but if we go way long up that direction, that is bad. Thankfully, the tree that my disc hit, it dropped straight down, and I have a birdie putt from here. And no, I cannot make a birdie putt today. To get from the basket of 3 to the tee for 4, we do have a sign on the trees. This is walking away from the big rock edge of the cliff. And if we follow this right over here, we end up at the tee pad for hole 4. Discless hole 4 is a 189-foot par 3, dead straight ahead. As I'll show you shortly, there is danger all around the pin. We cannot see the basket from the tee, but it is straight over the hump in the middle of the fairway. If anything, we want to be on the left side of that, but if we have a dead straight shot through the gap, we can get to the basket. The elevation does drop off once we get to the crest, so the hole itself does play slightly downhill, but we do need to get over that crest to get down and close to the basket. Again, we'll give you a view here shortly of all the danger right around where the basket is. And that is way left, which is absolutely the one place we do not want to be on this hole, because again, we are on top of that ridge. I'm hoping I didn't go over the cliff. Here we are at the top of the hill. We can see the basket is perched on a ledge, and the ground drops off very steeply, both to the left and to the right and behind the basket. So this is pretty much a death putt no matter what direction you come at it from. It appears I hit a tree and we did not go over the cliff. It drops off very steeply where those down branches are. I am in a little valley right here. If we turn around, we can see the pin from here. right between the two trees there. Again, this is going to be real tough. If I can get close on this, I'm going to be very happy. Here, I'll point out a little bit better exactly where the basket is, but it is just behind the second tree. We can see it peeking out on both sides of that left side tree. I had no good run at the basket from there, and again, as you could see from the fairway shot, I did not want to go long, so I should have a reasonable par putt from there. And the Omega Super Soft putter did its thing again. Here again, the pin drops off probably 10 vertical feet down to the right, probably 6 behind the basket. So where I ended up here, that was kind of a chip placement shot and about the best I could hope for. And the par streak continues. To get from the basket of 4 to the tee for 5, if we continue down into the chasm here, into this little gully, we take a left, follow the trail at the bottom of the gully, and this does pop out right here at the tee for hole 5. You disc hole 5 is a 185-foot par 3. This is significantly uphill, and it does appear that the basket is on top of a mound, so kind of no matter what direction you come at this from, rollaway potential is high. And based on, from what I can see from here, I'll get a better look when it goes to the green, but it appears that we would rather be short than long here. And that gives you a good idea of the rollaway potential here. I believe I hit the small twin birch tree that is just past this first pine tree on the right, and it rolled back probably a solid 30-40 feet back to where I am now. So I'm a good 50 feet away and very much uphill, narrow gap. Let's see what I can do from here. And the Millennium Super Soft comes into play again. It stayed right up by the basket, so that's the most important thing here. And tap in for par. There we go. And to get to the tee for hole 6, there's another sign here, which this would be to the right of the basket if you're looking from the tee. Go down this little slope here, and we have the tee for hole 6 right here. You disc this hole 6 at a 270-foot par 3, dogleg left. It is very significantly uphill. We cannot see the basket from the tee, but the direction of the basket is fairly far off to the left, further far off to the left than the tee sign would have you imply. It is more or less in the direction of, if we see this second tree off the left side of the fairway, the small one, the basket is to the right of that. If we see the next tree to the right of that way off in the distance, that is the direction of the basket. The main gap is straight ahead, but that left side, if you end up there, it is fairly thin out there, so you may be able to sneak something through there, but I wouldn't count on it. The main play, especially if you have a good backhand, is going to be through this gap on the right, and then have the disc move from right to left once you get through this first gap here. So we'll see what I can do. This is going to be tough for me to get close on this one. So that is a good example there. That's not the gap I wanted to go through, but somehow it snuck through everything and didn't hit any trees. Here we are at the crest of the second hill looking back at the tee. If we turn, it's about a 45-degree angle to the left of a bend from where I am right here. There is a bit of a gap. The further up we go to the right, there's not a whole lot of rollaway potential here, though the ground does go up and down. It's really the only big rollaway is going to be long of the basket. But anything short, any tree kicks, it's going to end up somewhere where you can find it. It may not be ideal, but we can figure out where to go. Here we can see the basket sort of through this little cluster of brush just in front of us. I am about 20 feet to the left of here. So these small trees that we can see on the left, those are blocking my path to the basket. I'm gonna have to get a little creative and come out around this way. So we'll see how this works out. I would have liked that to go a little bit further left, but I have a circle one putt for par. Thankfully, my disc stayed up on top of this crest and didn't slide down what would be to camera left or past the basket. But again, 20 feet for par. Let's see if I can keep the par streak alive. That is definitely the hardest hole so far, but good approach. Managed to drop the par putt. To get from the basket of 6 to the tee for 7, we have to turn around and go back up the fairway. We do need to go to the left. You can see up in the distance there is a sign that says tee pad 7. There's a little bit of a shortcut to go through here that I'm going to take. So we go left instead of going back to the tee for hole 6. And just in front of us, we have the tee for hole 7. UDisc had hole 6 listed as a par 4, not a par 3, so that's actually a birdie, so hooray. It makes me feel even better about that. Hole 7 is a 217-foot par 3, slightly uphill, straight ahead. It's a little bit difficult to see because of the lighting here, but the basket is out in the open, straight ahead, right through that main gap with the brightest green bushes in the background. It looks here, again, like we do not want to go long. It looks like the basket does drop off quite a bit behind. So this is one that's better to be short than long. That went way left, but towards the end of the flight, I don't think you could see it on camera, but it hit a tree and skipped to the right. So I think I have a clear birdie putt from there, though long. Here we are at the green of hole 7. So we can see that past the basket, it does drop down quite a bit. There are some hills and mounds, but if you get a really bad bounce or really bad roll, you could go through the gully all the way down and end up 150 feet away if you got a particularly bad break. We can also see the tee for hole 8 down there. And I did make it basket high. So I do have a long birdie putt, but a birdie putt nonetheless. I left my birdie putt short, but I had to drop in for par, which, as bad as my tee shot felt off the tee, I am quite happy with that. To get from the basket of hole 7 to the tee for 8, if we continue down the hill past the basket, Baer a little bit to our left, and just in front of us, we have the tee for hole number 8. UDisc lists hole 8 as a 268-foot par 4, dead straight ahead. The basket is on top of that hill. I'm not sure how well it's going to pick up with the lighting on camera, but we can see it off the tee. Straight in the middle, all right between the two prominent trees in the middle, a little bit on the right side of those. What makes this a par 4 rather than a par 3 is the line of trees about 225 feet off the tee, where you may want to try and pick a gap through there, but it's going to be difficult or kind of more luck-based. There are some low branches up there, so getting it to the basket, though it is theoretically possible, it's just going to be kind of fight your way through the branches and hope things turn out well. So I'm going to try and fight my way through the branches and hope things turn out well. Well, that was low, but I went straight through the gap, didn't hit any trees, and skipped up the hill a little bit. So I have probably about a 35-40 foot putt for eagle from there. So here we are at the green. If we take a look around, there's really quite a bit of empty space past the green. That tee that we see over there, that's the tee for hole 3 that we played earlier. If we go past, we have the sign for hole 9. There is some brush piles and things that I'm guessing are in the process of being cleaned up. But we have a rock wall short, sort of at the line of trees as well. So in order to have a good shot at eagle, you do need to get over that. Luckily, this is probably the best chance I have ever had at an eagle. I am about 20 feet away. The putt is uphill, but this would be very good if I managed to get this. Hooray! And that is the first eagle I have ever gotten anywhere. So very happy with that drive, very happy with the putt. Again, a little bit high, but in is in, more or less dead center. So hooray! To get from the basket of 8 to the tee for 9, again, if we look over there, that is the tee for 3, but we want to continue past the basket. There is a path that goes through the woods up here, and just on the other side of this brush is the tee for hole 9. Unfortunately, hole 8 is actually a par 3. The sign is wrong. UDisc has it listed as a par 3, and I just talked to a couple of regulars that I let play through here. They confirmed that it is a par 3 as well. So no eagle, but still a very good birdie there. UDisc lists hole 9 as a 150-foot par 3, dogleg right, significantly downhill. We are just off the tee to the left. We cannot see the basket from the center or the right side of the tee pad, but here if we look downhill along the line of trees that define the right edge of the fairway, just at the edge of that we can see the basket sticking out around the corner. It does look like the ground drops off significantly, starting about 20 feet behind the basket. If we go to the left, there are hills and mounds on the left side of the fairway, so even if we get a bad tree kick, we're not going to go too far to the left. The right, there are some woods that we can get trapped in, so I think the play here is forehand hyzer for me, and it is significantly downhill, so it is going to be easy to go long here. There are gaps both inside and outside, so around this first tree, kind of dead center of the fairway, playing either direction around that is feasible. Where I predominantly play forehand, I'm going to take the wider route and use an overstable disc and hopefully get right next to the basket. That's a little short, but should still be a birdie putt from there. There is a gully and a rock wall here, so my disc actually hit the rock wall, and I'm kind of just at the right edge of this rock wall, which is before the gully, so my putt is at least flat. This is a long birdie look, but I think still about 30-35 feet. And I left that short. POV for 3. There we go. To get from the basket of hole 9 to the tee for hole 10, if we keep going past the basket, we do have a little path to follow. We have a sign that says tee pad 10, and we can continue down this path. And off to the left. Here we are at the dog park. So we go past the dog park. And continue around this nice wide path. And as we continue down the path, once we take this last bend, we end up at the tee pad for hole number 10. This hole 10 is a 488-foot par 5. We cannot see the basket from the tee, but the general direction is pretty much straight ahead. However, there are lots of trees in the way, so the path to get there is this first little dogleg left, and then with that mound that we can see in the background, just after that large dirt mound, we take a hard right, and there's another option to go either left or right that we'll look at up there to get to the basket. You can't actually see the basket until you're within about 30 or 40 feet of the hole, but if you follow the fairway, that's kind of a good idea to go with. And again, for the second shot, we'll talk about this later, it's going to be better to be left in the fairway rather than right. However, one thing to note off the tee shot is that there is a small water, I think it's just a puddle now, but I imagine earlier in the year it was significantly deeper and larger body of water that it is possible to get to off the left side of the fairway on your tee shot. So again, it's not too long of a hole, so this is more about placement and how aggressive you want to get. Again, I like to have fun, so I'm going to be fairly aggressive here and throw a forehand understable disc on Anheuser that hopefully fights out of it and ends up going straight, and we'll see how far down after the bend I can get. And that was a little too much Anheuser, so I hit the first real tree off the tee. So here I am just before where my disc stopped. So this is right at that first left-hand bend in the fairway. We do have a better shot at that large dirt mound from here, and the ground does open up significantly behind that dirt mound, so it's okay to go long. But if we go way super duper long, like 200 feet past that, there is a lake out there, but we really want to be stopped before then to get to the basket that's actually past the basket. So the idea here is hopefully we can get it over the mound and have a good third shot. And I still have a shot at birdie even with hitting the first tree off the tee. The body of water is to the left of here, about 60 to 100 feet off of the left side of the fairway, so we do not want to go in the trees left, but hopefully that won't be a problem for me here. That's in the woods on the right, which is going to be interesting. So if you had a good tee shot, this is kind of the area that you would want to be in. I did not have that. And if we look to our left here, you can see we do have a little marsh sinkhole. It doesn't look too deep here. However, there is a rake there to be able to retrieve it from in there. It has been fairly dry here for the last couple months, though it did rain fairly heavily a few days ago, but that's going to be marshy and probably deeper in the spring. Also, this upper fairway section up here, this is another one that I would expect, if it's wetter or earlier in the season, that it would be kind of marshy and mucky through this landing zone just before we get to the large dirt mound. All I have here for my second shot is a chip out. I do have to go around the dirt mound, but high and sort of a U-turn is kind of what I need here. That's about all I could do from there. Now, if we were out here where we wanted to be initially, we are right next to the dirt mound. You can see it does open up quite a bit past here. And I actually need to go even further to get around the corner. Now we still cannot see the basket from here, but it is directly behind, probably about 50 feet behind that sort of second dirt mound that's off in the distance there. This is going to be very difficult for me to get close for birdie. In fact, even par I would be very happy with here. That was my fourth shot, so that actually would have been for birdie. But we'll see how that turned out here. I lost sight of it because, again, that's a good example of you want to be left. However, again, here's another little marsh pond right by the elbow. And if we go out past that way too far, we get to the lake. So hopefully I am over here somewhere. And yeah, here I am. And no, we still cannot see the basket until we get to about right here. So I do have a par putt, though it is a very long par putt. Let's see if I can make a miracle par or if I get my first bogey of the round. I gave it a run, so that should be a bogey, should be drop in. To get from the basket of 10 to the tee for 11, if we go past the basket and follow this path here, we do have a sign on the tree pointing us down the right path to go to the hole 11 tee. And here we take the left path. There's another arrow there, and just past this sign we have the tee for hole 11. Hole 11 is a 338-foot par 4. It is a dog leg to the left. The big issue here is that there is a large pond in the middle of the fairway. So we've got about 175 to 200 feet before the pond starts. So realistically, I need to lay up. If I absolutely completely ripped a throw in the perfect direction, there is an outside chance I would have to clear the pond. However, it's much safer just to play it short and then go over the pond on the second shot. We cannot see the basket from the tee. It is sort of through the trees to the left. If we sort of follow the left edge of the fairway, right over the top of this first mound, that's the direction of the basket. And if you have a strong hyzer and can throw reliably 300 feet in the air plus on hyzer backhand, you could get it there over the water, but not something that I have in my arsenal. So I'm just going to lay up here and hopefully have a good shot at the basket on my second throw. Well, that hit the tree on the left and kicked right. I think I'm close enough to the pond to be able to get over it if I have a clean lie, so we'll see where I end up. Here we have a better view of the basket. This is right in the middle of the landing zone. You can see we're about 50 feet short of the pond. It's probably about 100 feet to clear the pond from the edge all the way across. Looks like you do not want to miss right because there's branches there. It does open up quite a bit in front of this bush and birch tree on the left side, so the safer miss is long and left, but it is a pretty narrow landing area. So again, this is going to be a tricky second shot. See how this works. Hooray! Not only did I make it over, it looks like I have a good shot at birdie. Here we are just at the front edge of the pond, just to give you a little bit better look about what is going on near the basket. Again, it's very steeply uphill from the pond to the basket, so if you end up short, there is a good chance of the disc rolling back down into the pond, though you should still be able to find the disc that way. If it's off to the right, it's probably gone in the water forever. If we do go long, we are going to have a death putt putting back at the pond. However, I don't have that. I've got about a 20-foot putt for birdie from here and no death putt, so no reason I should leave this short. Hooray, that was a good way to make up for the bogey on the last hole. To get from the basket of 11 to the tee for 12, if we look just past the basket, there is a sign pointing towards the left. And just across over here, we do have the tee for hole 12. Discless hole 12 is a 235-foot par 3. It is a dogleg right. Here we are just ahead of and to the left of the tee, between the tee and the pond, and we can see the basket on top of a rock, so it does have a raised basket. With the height of that rock, I'm going to guess the bottom of the basket is probably 5 to 5.5 feet off the ground. So the idea here is, again, this plays into my right-hand forehand, and we'll hopefully get it close. Now, one other thing here, we do not want to go left, because if we go left, we could very well kick into the pond, and that would be a lost disc. The branches are fairly thick on the right side as well before we get to the tree that we need to get around to get out to the basket. I think that's exactly what I wanted. And let's see if I can make another birdie. To get from the basket of 12 to the tee for 13, we can see the next tee sign, 13. If we go past the basket and go up the hill, so there is a well-defined path here going up the hill. And then right at the top of this hill, we have the tee for hole 13. Hole 13 is a 238-foot par 3, severe dogleg left. There is a little bit of a clearance gap if we go straight off the tee over the rocks that are sort of on the right side of the screen here, and then take a 90-degree left to go to the basket. The other option, if I had it, would be a spike hyzer over all of the trees. To give you an idea, the basket is so far left that it is well off the screen to the left here. I do have a little bit of a headwind. Unfortunately, I don't have the spike hyzer play. The trees on the left side are somewhat thinned out, and there are a couple of rocks and valleys in there. So the option that I'm going to take, since I don't have the backhand spike hyzer, is I'm going to do forehand and hyzer with a disc that may turn into a roller. So this is, we'll see if this works or not. I have no idea if it's going to do what I want it to, but hopefully this is a complete aim for the middle of the trees and hope you miss everything shot. Well, that I think went left of where I wanted it to. I don't think it turned over into a roller. I heard it hit some trees and I heard a thud of it in the ground, so we'll see how this ends up. Here we are in the middle of the first large rock on top of the trees. So if we pan a little bit to the right, we can see sort of the intended path over that way. Straight ahead off this center deal, we can see the basket between a couple of the trees, kind of straight ahead, a little bit on the left of center from here. And I can see my disc. I am way down the hill on the left, a little bit ahead and to the left of here. So I'll show you what I've got from that spot. So here we are on the left side. My creativity was not successful. I have no good way to get out anywhere. The shortest way out is probably directly to the left, which goes over the 14th tee. But I think I see a little bit of a gap here kind of straight ahead that maybe I'll try a roller through there and see if I can get it to roll up to the basket. Holy I'm not sure I could have done that any better. I have a 20-foot putt to save par. Well, it's even less than 20 feet to save par. All right, so there is my par. Now, to get from the basket of 13 to the tee for 14, first off, I'm going to point out that if we look a little bit to the right here, past the basket on top of the hill, way off in the distance, that is the basket for hole 14, which we cannot see from the tee of 14. So to get to hole 14, there's a little path to the left here, through the woods, and just on the other side of this is the tee for hole 14. You disc lists hole 14 as a 286-foot par 3, dogleg left. The gap is straight ahead, and then when we get to the top of that crest, we want to go left. We cannot see the basket from the tee. However, if we see the little stand on the left corner of sort of the open field there, the basket is about halfway between there and the right edge of that set of woods before the fairway opens up. So this is one that it's better to miss right so that you'll have a clear shot at the basket on the second shot. But if we can get up that hill, then we will have a birdie putt. We do also have a left to right breeze on this hole that has picked up. So that will actually hopefully help us keep from going too far into the woods. I slipped off the tee, but I did end up on the far end of this field. That bush on the side of the hill may be in the way, but I should, other than that, have a clear shot at the basket from there. My shot was short enough that the shrub is not really in the way. At least I have the option of going over it. So we'll see how this works out for my second shot. Again, here the idea is a good shot from here would be a drop in for par. Well, I'm not sure if we got that shot in before the camera decided to fall over, but that is going to be a very long par putt. Not as bad as I had feared, but still a solid 25 feet for par. Well, I wanted to make sure I didn't leave it short, and I did not leave it short. To get from the basket of 14 to the tee for 15, if we look past the basket, we have another one of the signs. It tells us to follow the path on the left past the basket. And if we just go up here a little bit further, we are at the tee for hole 15. Hole 15, UDisc lists this as a 224-foot par 3. The tee sign lists it as 180, and I am more kind of willing to lean towards the tee sign on this one. We cannot see the basket off the tee. However, it is just to the left of the row of trees that is in the center of the fairway. If you look way off in the distance, there's a gap between that row of trees in the center, and there's one smaller tree further off behind, and to the left of that, the basket is in that gap. So it is also significantly downhill. So this is going to be a fairly light shot. It does flatten out. You're not going to end up too bad if you go long, but it's difficult to get in the area of the basket through the trees. So this is kind of a pick a gap and hope you hit it. That's not the gap I was going for, and so it hit a tree. It did not stop. It kept going down to the right. So I think I'm about pin high with probably about a 35, 40 foot putt for birdie. Here we are right next to that first tree we can see in the center of the fairway, and now we can see the basket downhill, again protected by several trees down there. Here we are on the left side of the basket looking back up towards the crest of the hill, and you can see it's just kind of a pick your spot and hope you get through the trees. You're definitely not going to lose a disc in here unless you go into one of these brush piles. There's one long and to the right of the basket. I do sort of have a look, so we will see how this works out for birdie. I'll take the drop in for par. With the tee behind us, to get from the basket of 15 to the tee for 16, if we take a right, we have a small path up here. I did not see any signs, but if we look in that direction, we can see the tee pad for 16 from the basket of 15. So as we come to the end of this trail, we have the tee pad right here. Hole 16 is a 268 foot par 3. Straight ahead, it does appear that the basket is raised. The big thing is we just need to make sure we hit the gap and stay out of the pine trees on the left. If we go in the pine trees on the left, we're not going to lose a disc, but it's going to be very difficult to get out of there and close to the basket to save par. That is right, but it's fairly far down there, so I don't think I have a birdie putt, but should be able to get a par from there. Looks like I hit a couple of these trees and dropped straight down, which I think turned out to be a good thing. This is about a 45, 50 foot putt and a low ceiling, so this is going to require a little bit of creativity if I want to make a run. Short, but that'll drop in for 3. The basket here is a little bit raised, but it's maybe 4 feet off the ground, so a little bit higher than normal, but not too bad. So here we have my drop in for 3. Okay, and now to get from the basket of 16 to the tee for 17. If we continue past the basket, there is a little path up here to our right, and just at the top of this path, we have the tee pad for hole 17. Okay, here we have a hole where the tee sign is not correct. Hole 17 is a 348 foot par 4, dogleg right. The idea here is we want to go straight for a while, about 150 feet off the tee. The fairway goes to the right, and after about another 75 to 100 feet, there is more or less a cliff that goes straight uphill all the way across the fairway. So we'll give you a little bit better shot of that a little bit later, but the idea here is we just need to make it around the corner so we can get to the basket. We don't want to go too far into the woods. The further right we can go, the better off we're going to be for our second shot. But realistically, if we can get to the area of the large pine tree in the center of the fairway and there or right, we don't really want to go too far past that, but that's kind of where we want to be. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, that's on the right edge of the fairway. I'm going to have a little bit of a challenging second shot, but I think I have a clear-ish shot from where I am. Here we are in the middle of the fairway, so this is short of where my disc is. My disc is ahead and to the right of here, but from here we can see the basket. It's a little bit difficult to see, but if we look through the right gap ahead of this tree that's leaning towards the right. There's a rock just before the dirt mound, and if we look directly above the right edge of the rock, we can see the top half of the basket from there. So I did end up in a reasonable spot, and above the mound there are a couple trees to miss that you can't see on the left side, but I should have a reasonable shot at getting at least close to the basket, if not for birdie, at least for par. Well, my disc took a kiss left off a tree that you can't see from here, but I could see from where I was, so I'm not really going to have a birdie opportunity, but should still be able to get close for par. Here we are on top of the dirt mound, and you can see once you get past here, there's a lot that opens up. So as long as you can get past here, then should be an easy 2 shots from no matter where you are in this area. I ended up in a terrible spot, but even so, where I've got a large pile of brush in front of me and no clear shot to the basket, I'm still only 50 feet away, so I should be able to get around there at least for par. That's going to be a longer putt than I would like, but a putt nonetheless. And a 20-foot putt to save par. Well, that's about the worst chain out I've had in a long time, so I'll take a bogey there. To get from the basket of 17 to the tee for 18, if we take a right from the basket, there's a nice little path over here. And just on the other side of this cluster of trees, we have the tee pad for hole 18. Here we have another discrepancy on hole 18 between the tee sign and U-disc. U-disc lists this as 305 feet. The tee sign lists this as 263 feet. So I'm not sure which is correct, but either way, it is a par 3. Straight ahead, we can see the basket from the tee. The basket is just over the mound on the right side of the mound on the left side of the fairway, just as it starts to slope down. It's got some very thick brush directly behind the basket, and I think this is another basket that's been raised a couple of feet. So again, the idea here is we don't want to go into the trees on the left, and there's a cluster of trees on the right, not too far from the green, that could cause problems. So this is kind of a, how far can you throw it straight ahead? And I popped that up and went right, so that's going to be a very difficult to get par from there. This is going to be interesting, though it does look like there's a bit of a backstop behind the basket to help keep things going too far. I do have this shrub in the way a little bit, and I have the 2 trees on the left side that could come into play as well. So this is going to require a little bit of creativity to get close. And I did not release that on enough hyzer, so I am deep in the woods for par. Here we are at the green, so we have a little protective mound on the right side. We've got some rocks on the left side, and behind the basket there is a bit of a backstop. Where I'm standing on the road, it is fairly open here, so we'll see if I can save my birdie from there, though I don't know exactly where I am right now. We'll see when the putt comes out. Well, I did sort of have a putt from there, but we'll take our bogey to end the round. To get from the basket of hole 18 back to the parking lot, just past and to the right of the basket, there is a well-defined path, which is the one that hole 18 goes next to. And then this spits us out right next to the playground. And if we continue down a little bit further, we can see cars in the parking lot at the end of the round. So if you would like to play another 18 holes, you can just walk across the parking lot and the first tee will be pretty much directly in front of you. And here we are back at the start.
The course is relatively new, and there was some significant brush cleanup on a few holes that appeared to be happening at the time I played. For a course this new, in general, the maintenance was pretty good. The thumbnail for this video is looking across the pond at the end of the fairway towards the basket of hole 11. This is one of the prettier views of any disc golf course that I have played. Even with the severe danger of losing a disc, which I really do not like, hole 11 is also my favorite hole on the course purely because of how well the natural topography is used for this hole. If you have the distance to clear 300 feet in the air accurately, it is possible to go for the green, but as I showed, laying up is also a very viable option. My least favorite hole is hole 13. Unless you can throw a 50-foot high right-hand backhand spike hyzer with accuracy, the best option is to throw a blind shot through dense trees and hope you make it through. Clearing some trees to make a viable path to the basket would significantly improve this hole. Because of how much longer it is, how small the landing zone is, and how sharp the current clear path dogleg is, it's a better option for almost everyone to poke and hope rather than to take the clear path that is provided. The first and last holes are critical for introducing the course and leaving the last impression at the end of the round. Hole 1 is a good introduction to the round. The majority of the course is short, technical shots that have to be shaped to get close to the basket with an undulating green, and hole 1 provides a good entry point for this. Hole 18 is a good end to the round as well, as it is a good reflection of the more open holes that there are. With the backstop shortly past the basket, there is also the opportunity to ace if you have the distance or run an approach shot from a good distance away without having to worry about leaving yourself with a long putt. Though I got a 4 here, a 3 is very achievable as long as your first 2 throws aren't terrible like mine were. Course navigation was good here as long as you make sure to look first before proceeding. Going from hole 9 to 10 was long enough that I was concerned that I had gone the wrong direction, and it is possible to end up taking the wrong path going from 10 to 11, but really that's about it. Finding exactly where the basket was on holes 6, 10, and 17 was a bit challenging, but mostly due to the discrepancies among UDisc, the tee signs, and the actual course. That said, if you just send it in the direction that it seems like you should, you end up going the right way. Navigating this course was like making Nestle's Toll House chocolate chip cookies. As long as you stop after every step and double check the directions to make sure you're going the right way before continuing on, you'll be fine and the result will be good. Pro tip, use 2 3/4 cups of flour rather than 2 1/4 cup of flour for fluffier cookies. Most of this course is safe for discs. A lot of the brush, though annoying, is not thick enough to lose a disc in, and most of the holes are short enough so a tree kick won't yeet it in the wrong direction to oblivion. Hole 10 has the thick brush and sinkholes. Hole 11 has the pond and the thick brush long and left of the basket before you get to the pond, and the brush on 12 on the left is thick enough where you could lose something in there, but that's really about it. For both my tee shot and approach over the water on hole 11, I used a sacrificial Innova DX Beast, but those were the only throws where I threw something that I normally wouldn't due to the danger of losing a disc. The tee pads were all gravel. Most were in good condition. Though this is not ideal, again, most holes are short enough where having a better tee box isn't an excuse you have to not be able to get it to where you want it to go. The tee signs were a marginal help. I think that some of this may be due to hole rerouting, like on holes 6 and 17, but once the holes are better formed out, new tee signs with accurate distances and elevation change would be more helpful. They're marginally better than nothing, but only marginally. The baskets are all DGA Mach 5 baskets. I wish every course painted their baskets in a bright, obnoxious color as was done here. The baskets were easy to see from a long distance away, and there was no guessing if that really was the basket or not. OSHA Safety Orange, even in the fall, is an excellent color choice. This is a great course to practice precision and accuracy on. It's not the best course for true beginners, and for those just starting out you may need to skip hole 11, but except for a few holes, this can almost be thought of as a long pitch and putt course. I usually throw an MVP trail off the tee, and on most courses, it's the second most used disc after my Pixel putting putter. But for 10 of the 18 holes here, I threw something that was 7-speed or slower off the tee because I didn't need the distance even with my noodle arm. I only used the trail 6 times, the beast twice, both on hole 11, and I used a Discraft Vulture on the tee shot on hole 17. I think that this course is short enough that the short white tees aren't really needed and don't provide much of an alternative for lower skill levels. If you want to practice bomber throws, this course is not for you, but for someone looking to learn shot shaping and precision without worrying that you're going to lose many strokes due to a lack of distance, this is a very good course. My overall course rating is that I would be willing to drive 2 hours to play this course for the first time and 1 hour and 15 minutes to play this course again. There are a few places that I would like to see cleaned up a bit more, like hole 13, but I do anticipate playing here occasionally in the future. If I'm not feeling up to a lot of long distance throws, this is a great course to get some practice in and have some fun and leave most of the drivers at home. Baer is kind of in the middle of a geographical void of disc golf courses, and though Ledgewood, which I have not yet played, and both courses at the Hollows are about 20 minutes away, those are the only courses within a half hour of Baer. Baer is unique enough where if you want to play a course like it, there aren't very many options. I hope you were able to bear through my course review, and if you've made it this far and enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. Subscriptions help a ton for small creators like me, and everyone counts and is appreciated. Also, let me know in the comments any other courses that you would like to see playthroughs of. Check out my other video linked here, or the playlist of my disc golf courses of Vermont and New Hampshire linked in the description.